You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla Kallander and Andrew Yaggie. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 45 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Kallander and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yaggie and I'm a real estate agent.
Hello, Andrew Yaggie. How are you today?
I'm good, Kayla. How are you?
Cold. Always cold in Fargo, North Dakota, but I'm great. It's good for inflammation. So we'll take the cold.
Good. Wonderful. Hey, how was your you were just at kind of a unique conference, some heavy hitters there, I think. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was at the Housing Wire. It's called The Gathering Conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I attended, essentially, it's a lot of executives, CEOs that are essentially speaking in about 15 to 20-minute increments. It was actually lovely because they just broke those up into so many different small parts over about 3 days. So we were seeing CEOs from some of the top mortgage companies, the Rockets, the Guilds of the world, UWM. We were seeing CEOs from EXP, Keller Williams, Remax, just these such high caliber people in one room, under one roof. And a lot of the attendees were, executives, or they were loan officers like me, or they were just in the mortgage real estate space. And this year they took real estate and mortgage together and combined it, which was really cool because I got to network with other realtors and talk about, the changes coming and talk about, what are you doing as a loan officer in your state? So it was a really cool collaboration of so many different minds, and just truly loved it. The networking always at these events is incredible, and you go not really knowing many people, and you leave knowing 50 people that you need to connect with after. So it was awesome.
No, that's really great. I'm a little bit jealous. You just had kind of this season of life, and having a younger family, not always time to get out to as many of these conferences. But I think that they're very worthwhile. And I mean, I see you attending all of these, and I know that, you definitely thrive in these environments.
It's just one of those things that, we're in small towns, Andy, and there's just such vast knowledge and experience. And when you surround yourself, iron sharpens iron. And I always come back with, aha moments, or things that I can use in my business, or things that I can pass on to my clients. And it makes me a better lender. And I think now more than ever, being, sharp and having your saw sharpened is more important, especially, with the markets that we've been experiencing.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think you're right on. So kudos to you, Kayla, for always being willing to learn and grow.
Yeah. And it's just fun to travel, so it's good. But what's been going on in your world?
Lots of real estate. It's, a couple of episodes ago, Kayla, we talked about was it the Realtor.com study report that said like 2 weeks ago was like the best time to list your home. And so honestly, like just this last week, I think like we have seen the market come alive just incredibly here. And honestly, even, homes are selling multiple offers over asking price. It's almost reminiscent of, 2021 and 2022. It's actually, I mean, kind of unbelievable, and has exceeded, my expectations as well. But, when I look at it, and I know that it's not just our market, because, when we look at, even the headlines that are out there, Kayla, and it shows us that home prices surge near all-time highs amid rising mortgage rates. And even on Mortgage News Daily, home prices apparently don't care about high rates.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what do you make of that as a lender?
When I see what we're spending as a nation, when I see inflation, essentially, people are not stopping their spending. They're not. And whether that means they want to continue to live their lifestyle, or they choose to rack up credit card debt. It is what it is. But I think that people are still going to pay money for a home, whether they can really afford it or not. But that's one thought. My other thought is that, when you don't have a ton of inventory, you're going to have people fighting over a house. And truthfully, rates are not stopping a lot of people. They can afford it. They know that, hey, there is a lot of value, a lot of gains to owning a home, and the rates aren't stopping them. I have many buyers that are like, "Oh, what's the rate today? Okay, well, either way, I'm going to buy this house." Or you think people need to buy sometimes regardless, or refi, from divorces to moving. I see a lot of physicians that are moving their families across, the states, and
Sure.
they have to buy. But I make of that as there probably isn't as much inventory, and there are people that are just not letting a rate stop them. They know the value, and the competition pushes prices up. I think inflation pushes prices up. I think that builders are experiencing probably some higher costs than maybe what they're used to. Um, but yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on across the board. I'm just still just shocked, when you look at this and it says US home prices posted a 6.4% annual gain on a national level in February, 0.6% month over month. So it just, with what we are seeing, in the market and inflation and, looking at a lot of different industries and businesses out there and people talking about the
Yeah.
economy slowing down. I know in our market, the biggest thing is inventory or a lack of, and, really no end in sight to that. So
Mhm.
I guess in the meantime, we just have to, kind of work through the challenges, work through the market a little bit, and
Yeah.
do our best to help our
Mhm.
clients find success.
Well, and you talk about it picking up, and every time you and I connect, I'm like, it's been busy, but there's still a lot of people that I'll approve in a week. Let's just say we get 5 applications, 10 applications. Of that, 75 to 80%, well, they'll say, okay, I know where I'm at. I'm going to wait for rates to drop. I'm going to wait. And I fear what's going to happen, and I could be totally wrong, is that rates are going to drop. And what was the stat? For every 1% rates drop, 3 million buyers come in the market.
Yep.
So, if you think it drops, half of a percent even, the floodgates open, and we might be experiencing what we experienced when you had a line outside of homes for people to see. Homes were flying off the market. Who knows what's going to happen, but that's just, it seems like that might be where we're going.
Mhm. Yep. Right on. No, I think so. And you're right. But I mean, obviously, everyone's got to make the right decision for themselves at whatever, that particular time is. I've had two buyers today that I've been working with just tell me, no, I think we're going to pass. We're going to hold out. One happens to be a second property, a lake home. So, there's no emergency. The other individual looking for a single family home, but it was like, hey, 3 to 5 offers. And you're telling
Mhm.
me that I could have to pay over asking price, and I
Yeah.
can't do that right now. And so
Yep.
I'm going to just sit back and hey, we'll see what happens. And they don't
Yep.
have to have a housing tomorrow either. So, so in those cases, I mean, it works out. But you're right, there definitely is a cost to wait, whether it's in
Mhm.
competition or home value appreciation.
Mhm. Well, and you never wanna just jump in just because you're like, "Well, I just need to buy now," and I hate to see clients settle for a home because they just need to get a home. So truly, you have to do what works for you, but we are seeing a lot of buzz of activity, I think both of us.
Kayla, what are you seeing for interest rates? I mean, it's, people are probably get sick of hearing about rates, but it's, of course, an important metric.
No.
What are you seeing out there this week?
Yeah, so rates are, have been up a little bit, but for the most part, the 30-year fixed is, and this is again national average, is 7.51 today. So it's, remember when we were under 7 a few months ago, Andy? We'd hop on this podcast and we're like, hey, we're under 7. Well, we're
Barely.
seeing, yeah, we're barely, but we're seeing, they've been pretty flat the last week or so, but for the most part, they're up a little bit. North Dakota housing rates are up about a quarter. So for a while, these had stayed the same. Today, they're up a bit. We were at 4.75 for that very first one up on the left, just to give you an idea, and we're up to 5. But then you'll see as it trickles down into all the different options. If you're a repeat buyer, if you make over a certain amount, you are North Dakota roots. and you're seeing between 7.35 and 835. So kind of the price you pay to get down payment assistance, money from North Dakota Housing. So
Sure. And hey, very attractive options.
yeah,
If you qualify for it and if it helps you get into housing, I still think back and, just this last year, some of the most rewarding, transactions that I did were using, some of these programs
yeah,
or a Minnesota program to help, an individual, a
yeah.
single individual with children get into housing
Yes.
and think of those scenarios. And it's really
Mhm.
awesome.
I will say I did lock a veteran in one of the programs, and she got 4.75. She closed last month, and that was profound. It's nice. New construction, she got a home for under 5%. So it works for some really, great scenarios too.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Um, how about for you, Andy? I think this time of year, last time we talked, we had said there was that article, was it from Keeping Current Matters or Realtor.com, about how the week, was it April 20th, was the time to, like, the perfect time to list your home. Um, are you seeing a lot of clients kind of wanting to talk to you about listing their home, taking that next step?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, Kayla, I've had a lot of people waiting in the wings. And so, you
Yep.
have buyers waiting in the wings. I have sellers more so waiting in
Yeah.
the wings since, we kind of specialize in listing homes and working with select buyers. But yeah, I have some that, we had yesterday alone, we had 3 closings and I think I had 3 seller consultations as
Wow.
well. And so, yeah, it's really starting to come alive. We have a lot of people inquiring as far as home values are concerned. We actually had a little in-person seminar last week as well, and had some really good conversations,
Mhm.
with a variety of individuals locally here in my marketplace. So yeah, people are anxious, to make something happen. And boy,
Mhm.
the market so far it's proven to be really a great time for sellers.
Yeah. And today, I know I get a lot of clients that are repeat, right? They've got a home now. They want to, upgrade or move states or cities. And whether they're, selling for the first time or they're, selling for the third time, markets change, things change. And today, we want to focus a little bit on what does it look like when someone even wants to sell? Like, what are the steps? How do you start? And so you, of course, know a lot more about this than me because you're seeing this left and right, especially in your market. But can we talk today, Andy, a little bit about what does a client need to do, or like what is the first step, or what are 5 things, whatever it may be, that someone can do if they're even thinking about listing or wanting to list a home to take that next step of buying? Like, what does that all look like, Andy, as a first time seller?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, Kayla. And so, really, I think what it comes down to is just reaching out to an agent and, looking around a little bit and saying, who might I want to work with? Most people will choose to work with an agent that, they maybe have been referred to or have a relationship, or maybe there's a family relationship. So, just going out there and identifying who you might want to work with. Along those lines, too, Kayla, I always tell people to be a little bit leery of who you're working with. Kind of like we talked about, a number of sessions or a number of episodes ago, just the fact that 49% of agents do 0 to 1 home sale per year,
Hmm.
which is really
Yeah.
kind of shocking. And actually, I've actually started to preface my listing appointments with potential sellers, and kind of just pose that question to them to see what their thoughts are. I have numbers
Mhm.
all over the board. Some people are big into stats and news, and I had one person say, "Well, 1.25 homes," and so they're above the curve. But a lot of people think, "Hey, 20 homes." So people are shocked when they hear that most agents do not have any experience, just because the barriers to entry in real estate are so low. So
Mhm.
we often go on from that conversation and talk about what should you look for. Well, first of all, the agent you work with should do business. You should be vetting them, vet them online. When
Mhm.
you go and you search for real estate agents, like in my particular market, um, just as an example, Kayla, I'll pull it up here. Sorry, I'm working off of one screen today, but you can look on Google, and so you can
Mhm.
see I'm one of the top ones that pops up. Google
Yeah.
screen, participate in some Google programs, have 62 5-star, 63 5-star Google reviews. You can reach out to us, you can message us. We generally, I think it says we'll respond within 15 minutes, even to message, and you'll
Yeah.
find a variety of other agents all over the board. But always look online. I always encourage individuals to go out and actually press your agent for what is their plan, whether you're working with them to buy a home or to sell a home. What is their plan and what is their process? And
Mhm.
actually, to get the whichever agent you work with to actually show proof in the MLS of how many homes
Mhm.
you've actually sold, to show that you actually are a productive agent, to know what's going on in the marketplace.
Mhm. Well, and I think you're spot on with that. It's like so many people here, oh, I know a person. Like I'll ask a client, "Are you working with a realtor?" And they're like, "Yeah, I mean, we know someone that's a realtor. It's a buddy." And even I, as a lender, know that we all need to work together. And so I'll challenge them and say, "Okay, well, if you want recommendations, I work with realtors every single day. If you would like a recommendation, I'm happy to provide you some options, but also do your due diligence because." You and I talked about, Andy, it's like, what's it going to cost you not to use a good realtor?
Right.
And
Or a lender. What's the
yeah,
cost? And that's
exactly.
where a lot of people, and actually, yeah, we were just discussing that article, weren't we? Where it talked about, stop justifying your fee or how you're compensated. Start showing the cost of not using
Yeah.
them.
hmm And it's true. And I think that as a consumer, if I was, I know tons of realtors, but if I knew one, I would start looking online, doing my research. And it's amazing. People are when I hear about a restaurant, I'm going to Google a new restaurant. When I hear about something, I'm going to Google. And so when you pull up Andrew Yaggie on Google, we talked about this before, you can find so much information about Andy. Same with Kayla Kallander, because we're putting information out there, we're educating, we're doing deals. We love what we do, we're passionate about it, we want to make an impact, but not every single lender and every single realtor is of that same mindset. Yet, yes, they're probably really great human beings. They're probably amazing. However, when it comes to getting your house listed and for the price and what you're going to get, and you have a lender that's going to work with you and strategize, you've got to do your research as a consumer.
Without a doubt. And that's, I think, again, we talk so much about education and us going out there and, both being lifelong learners. But I think that's one issue where, a variety of, consumers kind of fall flat in that they don't ask enough questions. But people in general, Kayla, don't know what they don't know, and not everyone
Right.
is a voracious learner or reader. And so really that's where we come in, and why I get so excited, to partner with you and podcast with you, and talk about putting together some courses, just because I I took some time the other day, Kayla, and it'd been a couple of years since I'd updated even my presentation that I provide potential sellers, and I really took some time to be really intentional about updating it. And I've just found, even kind of a new
Mhm.
passion, just sharing what
Yeah.
our team does, because we do so many things that nobody else does.
Yeah.
And I'd love to dig into that with you another episode, just to kind of
Yeah.
show how we're using social media, ad spend, and video to really showcase an individual's property and how important that is to the process.
Mhm.
And obviously you talk about us being out there and being visible, and obviously, people are coming to you, people are coming to me, people are interviewing us online right now as they're watching this episode, or as they're consuming other content. We
Mhm.
know, especially in your case, there are a variety of haters out there, and people that maybe feel threatened and put off, just because you're
Yeah.
actually doing the hard work, and you're going and attracting your ideal clients. But
Mhm.
honestly, for a lot of people, it's really refreshing, and isn't it gratifying too? Like when someone comes to you and said, "Hey, I saw you online," or I had someone
Yeah.
that came to my office the other day, "Hey, we saw your video, we love it, we really want to work with you." Isn't that
It
fun?
is. It's validation that people, just because people don't like or comment or share what you put out there, doesn't mean they're not seeing it. In fact, I had a realtor that I met at an open house, and I never really talked to her in person. She and I had 5 minutes together, and she referenced like 6 different things I posted. She talked about my dog. She talked about what I do for a living. And she saw that I had a closing with so and so. And it's just amazing that I'm like, wow, she didn't like anything, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't like it. Just because she's not socially liking it doesn't mean it's not being seen. And we have to think about that our consumers are seeing these things too. And I said this before, but when I meet with a client, I say, go and Google me or click this link. It's going to take you to my digital business card. Go follow my, YouTube socials, everything, because there's a lot of education out there. And
Mhm.
you are spot on, Andy, that they don't ask enough questions, but they don't know where to start. I mean, I wouldn't know where to start if I wasn't in the business. It's there's a lot of noise, but what's really cool is that, when you say first step is to reach out to your agent or, lender, whatever comes first. It's funny, you might experience this because I do. So you tell me if you do. I will ask for a discovery call with the client for 20 minutes. Sometimes I had one that turned into an hour and a half today. That's cool too. But they say, "Oh, I got so much out of this. The other lender didn't ask me any of these questions." So I encourage people, go shop around, because I know when they get to me, they will have this aha moment of, "Oh my gosh, she just took all this time and educated me. This other lender didn't even ask these questions. How are they going to best help me if they don't know these answers?" And so when I think about someone coming to you to list their home and you talk about having this presentation and showing how you're different, you really stand out compared to a lot of other agents that might be selling one house a year.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just awesome. And, obviously, like you've said, Kayla, we're both passionate about what we do. And ultimately, like I've said in the past too, it's not the home selling part that I love. It's helping people reach their goals and being, an integral part of that and working through all of the twists and turns and the ups and
Yeah.
downs, that invariably come and, getting to the finish line. That's what it's all about.
Mhm. When I think about it, I didn't grow up saying, I really want to do mortgages. I really want to calculate income but it's that end result of helping people get into a home especially when they think they can't, and to hit their goals. So I love that, that you said that. Um, so you said first step is to reach out to an agent, interview them, get to know them,
Yep.
Google them.
Yep.
So once they meet with an agent, or once they've met with agents, let's say, what's the next step after that?
Mhm. So it kind of depends on the individual and how they happen to come to me. Sometimes we'll start with me coming out to the house and taking a look at the property because a lot of people are like, "Hey, what's my house worth?" And so
Yep.
we have some great online tools, but just depending on county records and number of sales, like it may or may not be very accurate. So it's always good to get a set of eyes on the property. At which point we can go and put together some figures, and generally at that point I'm inviting them into my office and kind of going through that. I've gotten to know them, I built some rapport, and then we're kind of talking about our approach with marketing and everything else. Once we're through that stage of the game and they decide they want to move forward, Kayla, we're generally as a next step, signing some listing documents, signing some papers in order for us to put a plan in place. I've often found
Mhm.
that some, like I had a seller the other day who signed a listing agreement, and they said, well, we're not sure when we're going to be ready. And I said, well, hey, let's sign a listing agreement. Let's put an arbitrary date. We'll say June 1st on there. So now we're working towards a goal, because if we don't have a goal in place, the work at hand is going to expand to fill the time allotted. If it's open ended, we're never going to get there. So at least if we have a goal, we're working towards it, we can
Yeah.
move one way or the other. And so we're signing papers and kind of planning next steps. Maybe working at
Mhm.
scheduling a trip back out to the house for photos, for video, and everything else as well.
And when you do photos and video, do you have someone that you hire, Andy, or do you take them with your cell phone?
Yep. So I have somebody on staff that actually does all of my photo and video, and does so professionally. We do everything in house, from photography, virtual tour, drone video, and photography.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, so it works really well. We employ actually a full-time video editor. Jeremiah, who works with me, is fantastic. So really is the one behind even our opening and closing little teaser for this podcast. Kayla, Jeremiah put that together. He does everything for all of our home
Love
videos as
it.
well. Mhm.
I love it. So you really give clients such quality resources to ensure that their home is showcased as best as possible.
Without a doubt.
Okay. So after that, so we've got step two. You meet, you have formulate a plan. You might get photos. You figure out what they could sell their home for. What's the next step, or what's the last step at this point? Or maybe there's some other pieces I'm missing.
Well, it often depends on the individual. So there are some people that, their house is show ready, it's immaculate, it's ready to go.
True.
We
Yeah.
don't really have to give very much guidance, and that's great. But there are other people that, depending on the property, maybe there were some repairs that need to be made. Sometimes we're
Yep.
referring them, to a contractor or contractors. I have a licensed
Yeah.
contractor on staff in my office too, so that's
Wow.
always helpful if we do need anything 11th hour, if we're running into issues. And so we're kind of working through that process a little bit. And once everything's ready to go, I mean, again, we've ideally set our timeline. We have our photos and video. We have all of the information I need. And then we're just inputting the data and we are getting the property listed, at which
Okay.
point we begin kind of our marketing plan, which is really comprehensive and really heavy on social media.
One thing I love that you said is that, having a contractor or handyman, like it is so important to have connections and resources because you just never know, like, hey, this needs to get fixed. This needs to get fixed. I had a meeting with a single girl this last week and she's like, I don't even know where to begin. And the realtor goes, I've got you. I've got a contact. I've got a handyman. And it's like just having those people in your circle, it's providing value to your client.
Absolutely. And I think that, some of the most gratifying transactions I've done have been some of the most challenging one, whether it's repair wise or, I had some good friends of mine who were physicians who were moving to take their dream job. And, they reached out one day and kind of said, hey, we've got some big problems and we need your help. Okay, let's sit down. And well, our problems are that, hey, we just both got our dream jobs. We work more than full time. We
Oh
have
yeah.
kids. We have a busy life. We need to sell our home. Our home needs some pretty significant repairs. We need to buy a home, and by the way, we have to get quite a distance away to do it. And it's like, okay, well, hey, let's figure it out. And actually was able to help them with all of those, including flying them a little bit to go look at
Wow.
houses in Rochester, and help them reach all of their goals. Actually found a cash buyer, for their home, which they were just thrilled with.
Wow.
And so it's really fun, when you're dealing with some of these challenges that sometimes actually don't end up being all that challenging. It's just overwhelming for the consumer, which is a good reminder that, and I always tell people everything that we do individually, Kayla, all of the different
Mhm.
tasks, a lot of things aren't altogether all that difficult, but it's having the resources, the support, the staff, and just the knowledge and know how to do it is what's important, and why people come to us
Mhm.
and work with us, Kayla.
Mhm. Stop justifying your fee.
Yep, start showing the cost
Amen.
of not using you.
Amen.
There's a
And
cost to not using you, Kayla.
there is a cost, and I've witnessed it. But what's really cool though is what other realtor can fly you to a home? Like, I feel like we need a tagline for you, Andy, like Andrew Yaggie, the realtor pilot, or you know what I mean? Like, and we should like see some film from inside the plane. Let's see that.
I think,
Next.
Kayla, we've always talked about it. I think we need to go on the road one day, you and the agent aviator right here, and we
Yes.
need to, to go and it could be fun.
I think that could be season 3. You never know, maybe, but
Will we make it? We're at 45. I feel like for episode 45, I feel like that's a little bit of a milestone.
I feel like it is. Maybe 50 will maybe we'll celebrate at 50 and we'll take it up in the plane. Never know. But
Well, Kayla, I think we've talked enough about selling today. I mean, I could go on and
perfect.
on and on, and another day, I'd love to share a little bit more about kind of our unique marketing plan, just because
Yeah.
I think those that are watching or listening would kind of find it interesting, just to what's out there with technology and artificial intelligence and everything as well. But also, I think, maybe next time we connect, I'd love to, maybe reverse roles. I know you work mostly with buyers, so I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about kind of your process. And I
Mhm.
know you give us hints and tidbits all the time, but I'd love to dig in a little bit more
Yeah.
and just see kind of what makes Kayla so unique.
Yes, I would love that. So next episodes, keep an eye out, is the items that make Andy and Kayla unique and our value proposition. Keep
I
an eye
like
out,
it.
right?
Well, Kayla, great connecting as always. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
I will if you will. All
We'll see you.
right, bye, Andy.